you don't know what you've got till it's gone. Well, everybody here, if you were born in the NHS with the support of an NHS midwife, a maternity unit or an NHS doctor, this matters to you. If your children were born in the NHS, if your grandparents were born before the NHS and knew how difficult it was, this matters to you. You don't know what you've got till it's gone. This is the 65th year that we've had an NHS in this country. Let's not pension it off to the private sector. When David Cameron, before he came to power, in his pre-election manifesto, he proclaimed his love for the NHS, just like Margaret Thatcher before him. And he's now exposed for the subterfuge and duplicity that he really had in his heart. He told us he would yield to no one in his love for the NHS. After the care that his son Ivan got, who died sadly in 2009. But of course, after he was elected, he said, I still love the NHS, but it has problems. Many of us, of course, knew already that a true colour would come to the fore, and now we see the real Tory agenda and David Cameron's real agenda. First, a totally unnecessary, highly expensive, top-down reorganisation, opposed by users, clinicians and every professional representative group within the NHS. A reorganisation designed solely with the purpose of undermining professional and public morale in the NHS. And now a single-minded determination to destroy the public service ethos of the NHS, to replace the public interest with the interests of private health companies and providers. We talked about before the privatisation of the blood transfusion service or elements within it to Bain Capital. Who owns Bain Capital? Mitt Romney owns Bain Capital, the failed Republican candidate for the presidency of the United States. That's who owns Bain Capital. It's David Cameron saying, here, Mitt, here's a little gift for you, for your political advice, your political guidance. Put simply, the NHS is up for destruction by the Tory party and their collaborators in the Liberal Democrats, because I'm afraid to say many people in the street today might have voted Liberal Democrat. A lot of people in the north of east of England might have voted Liberal Democrat. But everything that the Tory government are doing now to the NHS, your NHS, my NHS, is being done with a collaboration in the lobbies, in the voting lobbies in Parliament by the Liberal Democrats. And don't let them deny it.
How do you take a national service that has the highest ever approval ratings and is deeply embedded in the public affection as being something that we all rely on and vitally need? That was the problem that faced Conservative policymakers and strategists when they took power in 2010 and in the build-up to all of that. It might seem a bit odd, but I want to start addressing that issue by talking about a nursing horror story. I know of a situation where a nurse left patients on their own for hours on end, where she used dirty bandages, and patients died and lost limbs because of infections that they got in their wounds. You've heard maybe stories of people drinking out of vases at NHS hospitals, which is nonsense. But some of these patients were so desperate for water that they even drank out of toilets. Now, you would expect that somebody in that kind of circumstance would be, up on charges of some kind. They'd be in the papers, demonised and vilified for their terrible care. Actually, this nurse in question was called the Angel of Arnhem by the people that she looked after. She was looking after them in horrendous circumstances where they were surrounded by enemy soldiers, and she disappeared for hours on end to risk her own life to find water and bandages for them. But if you heard that story out of its context, stripped of context, then it sounds horrendous. And without its context, anything can mean anything that you want to make it mean. That's the heart of the Tory strategy and the media strategy in a lot of parts, for how to turn the NHS from something that we all love into something that people are afraid of and happy to see the end of. And that strategy consists of trying to spin a load of stories that are basically harmless and make them sound as though there's something horrendous, while you keep the real damage that's being done to the NHS as quiet and as secret as you possibly can. You might think that, you know, claiming that the media and the government are working together to try and fool us all about what's going on with the NHS sounds like a bit of a loony conspiracy theory. You might not. But it's actually on record. There's a group of private health companies that were trying to work to support the passage of the 2012 Health Act. And the chairman of this group sent a report round to all of the other CEOs within the group on the activities that he'd undertaken in order to help get the NHS Act through Parliament. And included in this was a report on his orchestration, as he called it, of a campaign with a Telegraph newspaper in order to influence people's opinions by presenting the NHS as it stood without the Health Act as being dangerous and risky. You might or might not be surprised to know that there are so-called independent charities which are set up specifically with the purpose of how to devise policies and how to come up with stories that will persuade people that the privatisation of the NHS is a good thing. These people claim the tax exemptions that charities get, and yet they receive millions and possibly even billions of pounds from private companies, including private health companies, who stand to gain if their policies are successful.
I'll just say something very quickly about the power of individual doctors. In your own area, in Darlington, right of this minute, paediatric therapy services, that is occupational therapy and speech and language therapy, are being decommissioned. Now they're being decommissioned because one doctor, it seems, has said, there's problems with these services, we don't like them. So that under their own rules and regulations, they had to go out and do some consultation. They went out and they consulted. First people they have to consult is the public. Now, how many of you here were asked by the commissioners what you thought of the therapy services in Darlington? Just show your hands. Yeah? As I thought, you're not here. There's only 12 people actually responded to that consultation. 12 people of the thousands who've received the benefit of those paediatric therapy services. 12 people. Well, that's bad enough. But then they have to go and talk to stakeholders. Now, stakeholders, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different people refer patients into those therapy services. Now, how many stakeholders do you think they spoke to? Anybody like to hazard a guess? Well, I'll tell you. Three people! 3 people responded to that stakeholder consultation. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, looking at those individual doctors, we've done some research, and we found that one of those key doctors has got an interest, a declared interest, which interestingly has now disappeared from the declaration of interest, in one of the private companies that's lining up to deliver those occupational therapy services. Colleagues, this is just absolutely corrupt. Now, I wish I could say that this was unique to Darlington. It's not. It's happening in the north at the moment, where we've seen a very similar approach with other services which have been decommissioned. And the commissioners and the people involved in this ridiculous structure have got outside interests in private companies that are lining up to deliver the services. Now, we know about, Ian talked very eloquently about the kind of multinational corporations who are lining up to get involved in this, but colleagues, this is on a local level. Do not be fooled by all of their empty promises. It's empty luggage. We need an alternative. We need an alternative. We need to get rid of this commissioning architecture. We need to have an evidence-based approach to healthcare delivery. Who knows what your health service needs to be? Well, you know what you need. Your GP knows what you need. But I tell you what, Jeremy Hunt and the rest of the Tory party haven't got a clue what you need. How can we get that? Well, days like today are absolutely crucial. What we need is a broad-based campaign. Everybody who's interested, everybody who's got the wherewithal and the political nous to get off your backsides and do something, as you colleagues have today, so thank you for that. We need to get involved and have this campaign building. We need a campaign that ensures that our health needs are not seen as a cash cow for the big multinationals who just happen to be Tory party donors. Part of that campaign, and it starts today, colleagues, part of that campaign, we will be taking thousands of our members across the country to Manchester for a big national rally which is being coordinated by the TUC in the North West to lobby the Tory party conference and tell them, colleagues, that our health service is not for sale. The quote on the back of my t-shirt from Bevan says, "The NHS will last as long as there are folk with the spirit to fight for it." Well, I tell you what, Unite the Union is prepared to fight for your NHS. I'm prepared to fight for your NHS. Are you?
Hello everyone. I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you very much to all of you. You've been fantastic. All of you people have been tweeting and Facebooking everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you to our speakers. Let's hear it for the speakers! And let's hear it for the NHS! What do we say to David Cameron and Jeremy Hunt? I don't know about you, but I say, up yours, mate! We have another rally October the 5th in Middlesbrough. We want you to be there, we want you to be angry, we want your flags, your posters, we want your anger to be directed at this coalition government. Yeah. Are you going to be there? Yeah! Thank you. We want to see you on Facebook. If you've got pictures, you've got videos, send them to us. Send us them on Twitter. We're everywhere on Twitter. We're obsessed. So thank you very much. You are fantastic and we are really grateful. Thanks very much. Bye-bye, folks. Yeah.